So in my previous video I stripped the car to a bare frame, and now I had to start cleaning it up from the rust and from the debris and just find out what I was dealing with. Actually, the frame was in a good shape. It was patched already at some places, but the welds were not ground, so I had to grind them. I had to hammer back a little bit here because it was bent from somebody, probably jacked it up on this spot. So I cleaned it up from the rust, and after I cleaned half of the frame, this is what happened to my wire brush. So I had to stop, and on the day after I continued after I bought another wire brush for my angle grinder. But here you can see what the old patches look like. They are nice and solid, but they weren't ground down, and they don't look very well. Nobody cared about that. They cared the frame to be solid, so I took care about that. Here, by chance, I created something like before and after. You can see the old rusty part and the other side, which is nice and clean already. I figured out where the horrible noises come from the rear suspension when I was driving the car. Here on this picture you can see where the axle hits the frame, actually, on the potholes and when the car is jacked up. So I decided to do something here. Originally there is a small groove here, if you can see it, which is not deep enough, obviously, so I decided to deepen it a little bit to make it to avoid this problem. It was a funny spot, so I couldn't fit my angle grinder there, so I decided to cut it bit by piece by piece. And after I cut one big part of it, I just changed the disc on my angle grinder and ground everything else out. Then I just welded a piece of steel pipe there, cut the excess, I ground again, and then I just welded it around, ground one more time, and this is what I came out with. I think this is gonna be deep enough. It's nice looking, it looks like original. This is what it was before, that's the other side which is still not done. So I went like half an inch deeper probably. And that's it. I think that's gonna be enough. I spent a couple of hours grinding the old welds. I'm happy with the result. It's not perfect, but you remember what it was, so there's no comparison. I've also done the other side, the groove for the axle. Now both sides are deep enough for both axles. Next I had to prepare the rest of the suspension and brake parts for paint, and for some of them I used the sandblasting machine. It was dirty and dusty, but the results were amazing. Some of the parts I just wire brushed. I used the angle grinder with the wire brush, or even the bench grinder with wire brush on it. But the best results I got from the sandblaster. But it's really dirty. You can see the smoke all over the place. There was dust in the whole shop, literally. see, there's no any sign of rust on this drum. The springs you can see before and after. Even the rims, I managed to fit them into the sandblasting machine, which was a relief. But this is what the place was looking like after maybe 13-14 hours of sandblasting. There's dust all over the place. After I swept, I collected literally one full bucket of dust with my sweep. Yeah, most of the hardware went through the bench grinder. It wasn't easy, but again, very nice results. And these are all the parts from the suspension prepared for painting. I started with the rims. That's first coat of primer. I primed everything with 3 coats and then 3 coats of paint. That's the first coat of paint already. Between the coats of primers I just waited for 5 minutes, but now after the paint I had to wait for a couple of hours, so I decided in the meantime, while I'm waiting for the paint to dry, to paint the frame. Of course I started with the hard parts inside and the parts that are hard to reach. And then after I've done that, it was easy to go outside and paint everything else. This paint is some kind of a paint that the guy that sells it to us says that it's replacing primers and even rust converters. It's just one layer of this paint. Apparently protects the whole frame from rust, from water damage, etc. Second coat of paint. This is actually engine paint, engine enamel they call it. But I decided to go with it because it's heat resistant. Just better safe than sorry, as they say. And this is the outcome. Really nice. I'm happy. There's just one rim which the rust really got to it and couldn't be saved. This is the one. It's really bad, but this is gonna be the spare tire probably. Here the frame. I painted even the bottom part here. It's already turned around, so it's totally painted and it's getting dried. All the rest of the suspension parts are also hanging here to dry. All these parts that I decided to keep black. Some of them, like the lower and upper control arms of the front suspension, I decided to paint red, but I used this paint as a primer. Leaf spring, steering rack. You can see at the back the front rotors, the rear drums, and they're only waiting for the front calipers to be prepared so they can be painted with high heat resistant paint, specially designed for calipers. All these parts are gonna be red, but first need to be primed. But before that I decided to spray the frame with undercoat. This undercoat is very nice. It protects the frame from any water, and we use it for limousines and stuff, so I just sprayed 2 coats of it on the frame to protect it. Plus it gives very nice texture. The parts that were done already went on the shelf, waiting for the time when they're gonna go back on the frame. I just ordered some rubber bushings and ball joints and stuff, so when they come I'm gonna start assembling the frame. Meanwhile, I started doing the lower control arm here, making it red. The upper control arm. The rest of the parts that were gonna be red had to be primed first. Again, 3 coats of primer, rear shocks. I ordered new front shocks because the ones that came off the car were not in a good shape. Even the sway bar is gonna be red. So after everything got primed with 3 coats, I started spraying the red spray. Again, 3 coats. And here you can see everything is hanging again on my improvised dryer. Meanwhile, second coat of undercoat on the frame, and you can see here the texture. It looks like plastic. So that's the bottom part of the frame, and after it was dried I turned it around and I did exactly the same thing on the top. I cleaned very carefully the front calipers, and at the end I sprayed them with brake and parts cleaner to remove all the remaining grease and oil. And then together with the rear drums and with the front rotors, I painted them with the special caliper paint. I masked the parts that I didn't want to spray. And after I was done with the calipers, I put everything on the shelf. And for the frame and suspension, I'm waiting for some parts that I ordered, and then I'm gonna start assembling.